What if you took photos of a UFO hovering near your home, got them developed and printed by the local newspaper, but no one believed you? What would you do? This is what happened to a husband and wife in the 1950s that took two of the best UFO photos in US history. Hello and welcome back, or welcome to my channel. If you don't know what's going on here, I'm a horror artist and I like to draw what I talk about in the videos. I've had a bit of a week and a half off. If you don't know, watch the previous video. I have been taking antidepressants, went off of them, had to go back on them, and I did a stupid thing and went back straight on 10 milligrams of Lexapro, and it completely messed me up. I should have started at 5. My fault. I now have to live with the consequences for as long as it takes for my body to adjust. But I'm getting back into it. I'm getting slowly getting motivation, and I'm hoping to start releasing videos every week again. If not, it'll be every second week until I get most of my or all of my motivation back. I am now getting advice from my doctor, which I should have done in the first place, but it is hard to get a doctor's appointment here at the moment, and I just made a split decision to go back on my medication, and I started too high. But anyway, enough of that. Let's get on with the video. On the 11th of May 1950, on the Trent farm near McMinnville, Oregon, US, Evelyn Trent went out one evening about 7:30 p.m. to feed their rabbits and chickens that were kept in cages on their property. Once finished, she walked back to the farmhouse when she looked up into the sky and saw a slow-moving silver/bronze metallic disc-shaped object. Evelyn, startled, then yelled out to her husband Paul Trent, who was inside at the time, to come out and see what was in the sky. Paul came out and was faced with the UFO in the sky. He watched the object for a few moments before going back inside to grab their camera. Paul came back out and managed to take 2 photos of the estimated 100-foot UFO before it sped away out of sight. Paul Trent's father, who was also there at the time, was another witness to the UFO that very night. From the 1940s into the early 1950s, UFOs were a hot phenomena, as it was a point in time where UFOs were gaining traction and sending people into a frenzy, with a lot of sightings reported in that time frame. So, was the Trent family just jumping on the bandwagon of the UFO phenomena, or did they really witness a UFO near their farm? One thing I do know, just from research over the years, is that Oregon is one of America's hotspots for UFO activity, such as crop circles, glowing orbs, portal openings, Bigfoot sightings, and livestock mutilations with surgical precision. It's rated one of the highest places for UFO phenomena. People speculate it's because of its vast, remote wilderness. After the event, the Trents ended up getting the roll of film developed after they had firstly used up the roll of film, which is basically what you had to do back in those days to be able to get the roll developed, and which took a few days after the event. After getting the photos and showing a couple of their friends the 2 photos that Paul took, they ended up getting the photos printed in newspapers and magazines such as the Telephone Register and Life magazine, which is one of US's biggest circulated magazines at the time. So the Trents became instant celebrities, but apparently they never received any money for anything. In true form, this then brought out all the researchers and enthusiasts ready to debunk or prove that the UFO was a hoax, faked, or was actually real. In an interview in 1997 done by Brian Denson of the Oregonian newspaper, Evelyn told Denson that the UFO was coming right towards her and that she couldn't hear anything or see any smoke or wings. She just was confronted with a lot of wind. Many years later, in 1967, the US Air Force and the CIA decided to investigate the sighting. Like always, none of these organisations are able to successfully approve or debunk the photos. You know, if they were going to come out and debunk it, they would just basically say, like they always do, it's just another weather balloon, you know, all that bullshit that they like to carry on with. But the photos definitely had people divided. But even up to the very day that both the Trents died, they stood firm that what they saw was real. So a few things went against the Trents. One being that they didn't get the roll of film straight away developed. And two, they didn't go to the newspaper straight away. But when you take into consideration the time in which they lived, it all makes sense why. Rolls of film were expensive back then, and apparently Paul was a little bit of a tight ass. I mean that in all due respect. So he didn't want to waste the film. Plus, they weren't really looking for publicity. Also, they were both worried that the government might come a-knockin', and they would be in deep shit for exposing a top-secret government experiment. While the Trents did seem to enjoy the publicity from the photos at the time, they definitely got tired of it quite quickly after a lot of backlash from the public. They even admitted later in their later years that they wished that they never took the photos. While in the height of the attention, the Trents attended the New York's We Are the People program, where the producers asked them to bring along the negatives to the photos. They apparently wanted to, quote-unquote, borrow the negatives with intentions to give them back, but they never did. They were then told that the negatives were, quote-unquote, misplaced. But after 17 years, the negatives just miraculously appeared and were handed over to the Condon Committee for analysis. William K. Hartman was an astronomer that had the negatives now, and after years of painstaking research, in 1968, the Condon report showed that the UFO must have been roughly 1 kilometre away. Once the report closed, the negatives were then returned to the News Register, which was formerly the Telephone Register, in a McMinnville. Skeptics started putting their 2 cents worth in, such as Robert Schaefer. Their theories suggested that the UFO could have been the side mirror from a 1947 Ford truck that Paul owned at the time. Now let's compare. Apparently the mirror was hanging from the power lines via fishing wire, which is clear and hard to see. Also, the photos were apparently proven to have been taken in the morning and not the evening, as the shadows were sitting like the sun was out. Other theories were that a hubcap or saucepan lid was thrown into the air a few times. The negatives have been analysed and reveal that the negatives were not tampered with or altered in any way. So whatever happened on the day was something that was, was in the photo itself and was not added afterwards. Paul and Evelyn died in 1997 and 1998, just a year apart from each other, in a nursing home. The staff that looked after them described them as decent people, and so did the people in their community at the time in the 1950s, where they lived. So apparently the Trents had a camera called, I think it's like a Kodak Universal Roma camera. I did some research and I wanted to have a look into that to see if they, if things were thrown into the picture, would they have been blurry, like some of the older cameras had been with moving objects. I really couldn't find anything on the camera being like that. If anyone knows about these cameras and if you put something that was moving into the shot and you tried to take a photo, is it blurry with these old Roma cameras? Please let me know. But apparently this particular camera was of very high quality at the time. As for the UFO, I did notice that, the so-called aerial on top was not really centered. Now, I don't know if this is a thing. I've been looking at quite a few photos of the olden day kind of UFO pictures, and I sort of really couldn't come to much of a conclusion with that. But thinking of a UFO, I'd be thinking that the antenna would be more centered, maybe. I also looked at some of the mirrors from the 1947 Ford trucks, and they seem to be more centered, where the arm is attached to the mirror, from the mirror to the door. I don't know. This could even have been an illusion in the sky that looked like the antenna was not centered. Like, I really don't know. Like, I am sort of up in the air with this one. And it is kind of hard to find an original side mirror. I looked on Google Images, and there was a lot of aftermarket ones, and just trying to have a look back at some of the old photos of these particular cars. It is really hard to tell, but I must admit it does look similar to that UFO, so-called UFO sitting, above the power lines. I don't know. I really don't know. But what do you think? Do you think that this case from the 1950s is legit? Like, do you think that this is a UFO? Let me know what your thoughts are. I don't know. I could go either way. I really don't know. I do sort of sit on the fence with this one, because it does look a little weird, I must admit. In 1999, McMinnville organised their first UFO fest that is dedicated to the extraterrestrials in the famous Trent Farm UFO photos. This event is apparently the second most popular UFO event, losing first place to, obviously, the Roswell UFO Fest. The McMinnville Fest is a 3-day event of parades, costume competitions, and supernatural fun. It attracts thousands of people each year who just love the absolute oddness of the event. Like, you just never know, even in, because it was the height and the height of the UFO phenomena at that particular time, you just never know. Someone might have even been playing a prank on them as well, and they took the photo. You just never know. Like, there's so many variations to this, but it could be real. It could be a real UFO. Like I said, who knows? But the illustration that I decided to do for this video today was something that I'm not overly happy with the piece. Like I said, once again, not using this as an excuse, but my head's not in a very good place right now. My head's foggy, my vision's even gone stupid with adjusting to this medication. But I sort of come up with, say, like sort of like an inspiration from the wife who was out in the yard, and I also wanted to give her like this galaxy hair. To sort of represent, there's a lot of things out there with that we really don't know what's going on. Just a bit of a, add a little bit of a hoax type vibe too, with someone coming in with a stick with the UFO dangling on it, and she's fixated on this thing, but at the same token, she's got the camera in her hand, but she's also transitioning from human into alien. And she's got I tried to replicate like a 1950s farm dress type thing with an apron. I did some fence in the background. And this is the sort of the vision that came to me when I was sort of thinking of an illustration to put to this story. And there's quite a few sort of elements in there that represent a lot of things sort of just coming together, and who knows really what the go is with this McMinnville UFO. No one really knows what is going on. So yeah, I added just a faint bit of blood, just her nose is bleeding because she's trying to sort of comprehend what's going on. She's transforming and it's a little bit of, you know, blood coming out the nose. I originally wasn't going to add any blood at all, but it didn't feel right to me. I had to add it somewhere, and that's where I ended up doing it. So anyway, hopefully you enjoyed this video. And like I said, hoping to sort of get back into it a bit. I'm, like I said, not 100%. I'm probably not even running at 50% capacity at the moment, but I'm going to try until I adjust to this medication. And yeah, if you like this kind of content, like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!